Well, today I'm working on my rear suspension. As you can see here, it's wearing on the inside of the tire, but not on the outside of the tire. And since there's no way to adjust the camber angle on these tires without buying a special part, I can only assume some part of the suspension is failing. Now, I bought some parts to redo various rubber pieces that probably should fail, but the first thing I need to do is get all the pressure off of everything by either compressing the spring or removing the strut. Well, shock absorber. They're called struts on the front. Anyway, it's time to dig into this project. Okay, I believe I found the first error. As you can see, this is the bottom of the shock absorber, and as I push down on this bolt, watch down there. I believe I have found another problem. This here is the back of the lower control arm, and I believe this is the toe adjuster. When I take the hub and pull it back and forth, that actually wiggles a little bit. Okay, I found another broken part. As I was wobbling the back side here, I discovered that this side was also loose. Well, progress thus far. The bolt over here has gotten mangled trying to get it off. The bolt right here has decided to break off. And the bolt holding on the shock absorber just won't budge at all. So how do we get this bolt off of the bottom here? Well, what I would normally do, I'd probably put a hacksaw down in here and cut the bolt so that this whole conglomeration can fall off, and then I would just drill out what's left. But today I think I'm going to try something a little different. I'm putting a bimetal blade in my reciprocating saw. Okay, let's see here. With a little help from a crowbar, I managed to pry this piece out. So now I'm ready to start pressing out all these old bushings and pressing in some new ones. And in the meantime, I got to get the rest of that bolt out of this threaded nut here. After much drilling and persuading, I finally got this chunk of the bolt out of there. I had to drill it, and then I had to just feed it on out because it wouldn't go the other way for some reason. Anyway, that part's done. Now, it's time to get this shock absorber loose. So, it is time to try a thick metal blade, and I am going to cut it right here. That way, I can cut this off, and then hopefully feed that bolt out of there. Because I think what's holding this bolt up is it's all bound inside this. So I need to pretty much cut everything off of the bolt in order to get the bolt out. Okay, that idea worked perfectly. It cut clean through, and it's still a bit tight because this is, well, I guess this is pushing up against that, but you can see it is loose. Now let's unbolt the top and see if we can wiggle this out of here. The top of the strut is in the trunk. You can see here. Let's see if we can zoom in on it. There it is. And it's got two bolts, and they are quite rusty. I'm not entirely sure I'm going to be able to save them. I decided to take off this piece of the seat. And let me get back from it so that I could get to the other nut. It is kind of... see if I can get it in frame there, right there. And this piece of the seat was right in the way of getting to it easily. And this was easy enough. One bolt on the bottom and some sort of weird clip on the top. So just so you guys know, you can take that off and save yourself some aggravation. There it is. My idea of cutting it did work, but I had to cut it from both sides to get it to fall off. So now we only have one metal piece left because most of the rubber just kind of fell off. So I have to get through this in order to free up the bolt, because I still think this is the whole reason this bolt isn't turning. Well, I got everything off of the bolt, and as much mangling as I've tried to put on there, I cannot get this bolt to get free from that nut. Now this nut, I believe, is supposed to be welded to the frame, and it started spinning, so I'm guessing it broke free. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut it right here, pull the bolt out, pull the nut off, and I'll just drill the nut out at the drill press. Well, that idea appears to have worked like a charm. There's the bolt and the nut. Boy, those are still pretty hot. And there's the nut I have to get loose somehow. And now that I look at it, it was a lock washer. So, yeah, I'm going to have to pry that lock washer off and see if I can free the nut from the rest. I managed to get the nut free from the piece of bolt that was left over that held the bottom of the shock absorber. This was really stuck on there. I had to hammer this a whole bunch on the flat sides to break all the crud loose and then feed it out. As luck would have it, this piece right here is not pressed in. As a matter of fact, as I was picking it up, it just kind of started coming out. Now let's get a dowel rod to use here. There we go. I decided just to take a whack at this with the hammer because it didn't look like this had a metal barrel around it on the rubber piece. It just looks like it's rubber, so I think it might come out of here. So let's see if we can convince this thing. Oh yeah, look at that. No 20-ton press necessary, it's just rubber. Okay, that makes things a lot easier going back together, I'd imagine. Okay, well, 2 old pieces out. 1 to go. As you can see, I have the knuckle set up in the press, and I have a socket snugged up against this center piece here. The way I normally get these out, I push out everything that's connected to the rubber first, and then I go in and I cut through the remaining metal band, I guess, that's around the outside edge of that bushing. So the first step is, let's see if we can push this rubber piece out. And here we go. Can we push out the rubber? Okay, I think I hear it ripping. It's getting easier. Okay, I think we've torn the rubber. There it is. The rubber is now out of the center. Time to ruin the razor blade. Gotta cut out this excess rubber. That'll do. Okay, here we go. Let's see if we can cut through this metal ring. Well, let's see here. Can we get this ring out of here with my chisel? Oh, there it goes. It's going. And there we have it. That's why I always put that cut in there. It loosens it up just enough to get it to come out. Time to take all the pieces off of this old shock absorber and put them on the new shock absorber. So step number 1 is to compress the spring. 13, 14, 15, 18, 19, 20. Let's get 20 on this side. Okay. You can see I've got some vice grips grabbing the shaft, and I have my wrench kind of suspended up here. Now we just want to give it a nice baseball swing to break that nut loose. Now let's give it another one just to be sure. There it goes. The easiest way I've ever found to break the nut loose on the top of these things. There's a divot there. So let's start pulling all the equipment off. Uh-oh, I dropped something. Apparently that washer is not attached. Okay, so we take this off first, set it aside. We take this stuff off second, set it aside. This one on the very top, aside from the nut. Okay, we got another washer here. There we go. This has to go on. It's always nice to keep things in order when you're changing these out. I've got all of my parts laid out how they go on. Now we just pull this out, and we got to remember, this is the back side, that was the front side. So we're putting the back side up in this example. So let's see, there's the back side. Now let's start putting these back on. Got the bumper. We have this thing with some spider webs. Don't really need those. Okay, we've got this thing, which went over that. Now we've got this thing. Okay, now we put the cap back on, and I will feel a lot better about things once this is started. There we go. So now, even if these spring compressors gave way, that nut should hold it together. Time to put the shock absorber back. Okay, now, let's see here. I believe it went in this way, but this is the hard part. I think what we got to do is we got to feed it down through the bottom here first, and then up into here second. Now, I found it's always a good idea to take a little bit of grease and smear it on when you're trying to do any kind of pressing, whether it be a bearing or just any metal on metal thing. So let's get the excess down in there. Okay, so that's there. Okay, last chance to line things up properly before we start pressing. Okay, that feels like it's smashed down as tight as it can possibly get. I really have no idea if this is going to work, but I can't get this to center underneath here because of all this junk hanging off of it. So I'm just going to put a plate on this side, and I'm going to press it in with a C-clamp. So let's get things lined up and see if this works. Yeah, it's going easy. It's just a little too stiff to push it in by hand, that's all. Okay, I'm getting ready to press the last bushing in. I've already got it started, and this is the one on the top. So let's go ahead and press it the rest of the way in. I've just got a socket on it now to help press on it without pressing the rubber. All the bushings are in. Now it is time to start putting things back on the car. I really hope stuff just goes right back together. Let's find out if these bushings are even going to fit. There we go. Get that started, and then you got this weird keyed kind of thing that goes on the other side. And we just have to pay attention. You want to make sure your lobe goes with the lobe on this one. So let's put both lobes going kind of up. So it should fit somewhere close to this. Okay, now the next bolt, this one, well actually there's two identical ones. This one goes on the top, this one's going to go on the bottom. This one I didn't have to damage to get it off, so it can be reused. Let's see now, we got to get the bottom lined up. There we go. Okay, let's rotate this up if I can. And now I got to bend that clear down so that I can put this bolt in. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'll bet you, since that's the same bolt as the other one, the 17 should work. The power just went out, so unfortunately all I have left is headlight. Anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of this off camera because I don't really need to put all the reinstalling brakes and all that crap and bleeding the brakes and all that crap. So I guess I will continue the video when I'm ready to do the alignment. It may be a little hard to see, but there's a kite string there at the top of the jack stand. Anyway, I've already measured the center of each of the rear and front wheel covers to be about 8 inches. And I've measured from the rear to the front of the wheel, and it measures 8 inches plus just under a 16th. So I believe this wheel is now square to this line. So it's time to just tighten down the adjuster there, and then this project should be done. So, I hope this was useful, and I thank you for watching.